All right, good morning. I think that we have everyone here. I don't see anyone else in the waiting room, so we'll go ahead and kick it off. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today on this Friday before folks start heading out to the Democratic Convention in Chicago next week, which we are super excited about. My name is Katie Baker. And I'm here on behalf of Americans for Contraception today, and we are so excited to be sending off our delegates who are going to Chicago on a platform of reproductive freedom and specifically the freedom for and the right to contraception. And I especially want to recognize uh, the greatest champion of contraception in Virginia, Senator Ghazala Hashmi, who is also headed to Chicago as part of Virginia's delegation. Senator Hashmi, as I'm sure folks are aware, carried Virginia's Right to Contraception Act this year, which would have guaranteed Virginians the right to contraception, including IUDs, the pill, um, and unfortunately, Governor Youngkin vetoed it, despite both chambers sending it to him to his desk with some minimal bipartisan support, but some bipartisan support. So with that, I'm just so excited to turn it over to Senator Hashmi, and just really excited to have her here today as she prepares to head off to Chicago in the next couple days.
Well, thank you so much, Katie, and good morning to everyone. And yes, it's an exciting time as we prepare to launch the Democratic National Convention in just a few days. I am delighted that you're here today joining us on the eve of what's going to be a really historic DNC. In a few days, we're going to welcome Vice President Kamala Harris as our party's nominee for president, making her the first South Asian and Black woman to be the nominee for a major party. You know, Kamala stands on the shoulders of women who have never backed down from a fight when it comes to protecting our freedoms. And it's especially meaningful now to have her as our party's nominee when we see what the other party has done and what their presidential and vice presidential candidates are proposing. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have doubled down on their attacks on one of our most fundamental freedoms, the freedom to make decisions about our own reproductive health. And as we've seen reported by the media, President Trump himself said that he's open to restrictions on contraception by leaving those decisions to our individual states. This means that he would support overturning the constitutional protection to right to contraception in America. So this is the new Republican platform. It's determined to undermine even more reproductive rights and allow extremist politicians to come between a woman and her doctor. And just a few months ago, GOP members of the U.S. Senate blocked the right to contraception at the federal level, just like Governor Youngkin did by vetoing our bill here in Virginia. And Republicans continue to conflate contraception with abortion as they impose their own fundamentalist ideology on women all across this country. The Supreme Court's decision to overturn the constitutional right to an abortion in the Dobbs decision 2 years ago showed us how quickly things can change. It demonstrated that a fundamental right can be removed by extremists on the Supreme Court with breathtaking ease. Thankfully, Democrats have a different vision for our future. We believe that everyone should have the freedom to make their own reproductive health decisions. And this freedom includes whether or not to use contraceptives, be it for family planning or for other critical health reasons such as endometriosis or polycystic ovary syndrome. I am going to continue to be a proud champion for those freedoms, both in Richmond, when I reintroduce my bill to codify the right to contraception, and in Chicago next week as a proud delegate for our next president, Kamala Harris. Our party is the real party of freedom, and we're going to work tirelessly to make sure that Virginians know that this fall and next, we're going to continue to champion the rights of all individuals. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again, Katie.
Thank you so much, Senator, and thank you for being just such a tremendous champion for the right to contraception. We're just so happy to have your voice in Chicago. And next, we'll have another member of Virginia's delegation that is headed to Chicago, and that is Laura Packard.
Thanks for having me, Katie. I'm excited to go to Chicago. This will be my 4th convention. 4 years ago, I had the honor of sharing my personal story with then Vice President Joe Biden in primetime. And my story is directly relevant to the fight for contraception because I'm a cancer survivor. And according to my doctors, an unplanned pregnancy could risk my health or even my life. And various types of contraception I can't use because it could elevate my recurring cancer risks. So, what's most important to me is that JD Vance and Donald Trump not overrule my doctors and tell me what I can and cannot do to preserve my health and even my life. So, we're here fighting for everyone's contraceptive choices to make sure that we can do the best things for our bodies, our families, and our lives. And I'm happy to answer later any questions you have about conventions because I've been to a few.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura. And next, we will introduce Penny Blue, who has been a great champion for contraception in her capacity leading Red, Wine, and Blue in Virginia.
Good morning. I am so happy to be here. I am the Virginia Program Director for Red, Wine, and Blue in Virginia. And we are 500,000 diverse women across the United States working together to defeat right-wing extremism. And one of the things that we have found in chatting with women across Virginia is that we all have a story. And my story is about my mother. I am from Franklin County, Virginia, and my mother had 10 children. And during during this time that most people in Franklin County had between 10, 15, and 21 children. And I know there wasn't a time that my mother regretted having or creating this family with my dad. But I also know that she was thrilled to see her 7 daughters be able to live the life that they live because of the choices that they had with regard to contraception. And I'm excited today that we have elected officials such as Senator Hashmi here in Virginia leading the fight. And from a federal perspective, Vice President Harris leading the fight to continue to move us forward, making certain that we do not go backwards. And thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Penny. And now we have another one of our friends from Red, Wine, and Blue, Laura Bury.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am Laura Bury, the Deputy Program Director for Red, Wine, and Blue. I'm also a mom and a voter here in Virginia. And when Governor Youngkin vetoed the right to the Contraception Act, much like when the Dobbs decision was handed down, my first thought was, how is this happening? His decision showed us once again that we were right to be fearful of how far this would or could go. And what's staring us in the face is just proof that the extremists want to and are making it possible to eliminate our reproductive choices. I've lived my entire life without needing to think about access to birth control, and that's how it should be. It should be guaranteed that we have the choices in our reproductive health. And I have a daughter who is 24 years old now. And when she was going through puberty, we noticed the unusual amount she was struggling with each month. And let's be fair, it's no picnic for any of us. But what she was going through month after month was just not normal. And we didn't know at the time that she suffers from an ovarian condition that, left untreated, it can cause severe pain, sometimes immobility. She was fainting, and she had the inability just to participate in daily activities. That phrase, curled up in a ball, was what we watched month after month. And this was my 13-year-old daughter. Her condition, if it's left unwatched or untreated, can lead to an increase in reproductive issues and infertility. And her condition is not an outlier. Thousands and thousands of women endure this in their lives every day, and there is treatment. For her, that treatment was birth control, and it helped to manage the symptoms. It gave her the freedom to live her life now and also safeguard her future family for when or if she chooses, without the fear, without the uncertainty, and without unnecessary harm to her body. Her story is similar to so many, and having walked side by side with her through this, I'm just heartbroken that her options are being threatened again when she should be living that sky's the limit young adult life. And without having to think about access to medical options, and with the belief that there is a treatment for this or anything else and that it's available to her. Her medical options, all of our medical options, should be protected and not used by politicians where the end result is harm to women. And I don't think it's unreasonable to say that we deserve more access to healthcare, not less. Thank you again, Senator Hashmi, for continuing to fight for the women and families here in Virginia. It gives me hope for solutions. It gives me hope that we can return to common sense laws that benefit everyone. We need just more elected officials like you. This November, we need to vote with our families in mind. We need to vote up and down the ticket for those who are standing up for families across the country. Because if this can happen in Virginia, we know it can happen anywhere. And I think we can all agree that no matter where you live, we just can't ignore the extremism and that it is a threat. We need that federal protection for birth control. We need that federal protection for our rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. So I think we've really heard from our speakers personal stories of what is at stake this year. And we're going to see a big contrast as we head into Chicago next week between the platforms of the two parties. We have the Democratic Party led by Vice President Kamala Harris, who will protect contraception. And we have Donald Trump, who said that he is looking at restrictions at contraception. We have Project 2025 that's taken aim at emergency contraceptives specifically, which, as the senator said, some extremists inaccurately equate with abortion. So it's as simple as that, but we are so excited to be sending these women to Chicago next week. And with that, I want to go ahead and open it up to any questions from press. I think we're small enough that you can just go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a question.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Byer with the USA Today Network. Just, real quick question about what are some things that members of the press should look out for as we go into the convention week?
Well, thanks for the question. If you're going to Chicago, you should be sure to check out the 20-foot inflatable IUD. Frida, who is going as well, she is going to be stationed at a location, an art installation outside the convention center. We can follow up with the exact details if you're interested. Available on the weekends and Monday through Thursday, 3 to 10 o'clock, I believe. So look out for the inflatable IUD. And also just talk to convention goers and you'll find how common the concern is for our rights to birth control. And we all have a personal story. So I think just mingle and be sociable, and people will be happy to share their stories with you.
In addition to that, I know that the Women's Caucus is going to be meeting on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. And I imagine that that is going to be a very, very energized caucus, especially around issues that we've been talking about today, and also about the fact that we are going to be electing the first woman president that this country has ever seen. So there's going to be a lot of energy around the women caucus meetings on Tuesday and Thursday mornings.
Great. And thank you, Laura. I can't believe I forgot to mention Frida, who has made stops in Virginia Beach and Richmond and got a lot of attention and excitement from folks. So thank you for that plug for Frida, the 20-foot inflatable IUD. Any other questions from press?
Hi, this is Michael O'Connor with the Dogwood. I was just wondering, I kind of had a two-part question if that's okay, but just, there's obviously a huge contrast between, the role gender is playing on the Democratic ticket and the Republican ticket. The Republican National Convention was very, you had Hulk Hogan on stage, ripping his shirt, and, Senator Hashmi was just talking about the excitement of the Women's Caucus, at the DNC this week. Could you just kind of talk about, that kind of contrast and, the role gender is playing, in this election?
I think the role of gender is absolutely vital as we see the dramatic contrast between the two parties. And what that really boils down to is not the kind of antics that we saw at the RNC and the hyper masculinity that they tried to promote. When we're talking about women's issues, we're really talking about the issues that face every American and every American family. And women's issues are everybody's issues. So when we're talking about family planning and critical medical decisions, these are issues that impact all families. But on top of that, these are also economic concerns, there are workforce concerns, there are childcare issues, all the concerns that impact how we live and the quality of our lives center around the concerns that the Democratic Party has been working hard to address. So we are going to be concerned around housing, equity in education, access to healthcare options, and making sure that our communities are safe from violence and that they are healthy communities. These are women's issues, but they're also everybody's issues, and that's the strong contrast we are going to continue to paint between our party and the Republican Party.
I had the honor of attending the Maryland event yesterday with President Biden and Vice President Harris, and it was stunning, the contrast. Looking at the audience, the thousands of people that were there represented everybody. You could see women, men, people of all ages, faiths, race, and ethnicities. You can see that the Democratic ticket is trying to speak for everybody. And the words you hear out of J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are focusing on a very narrow segment of people that they want to talk to. And if you are a postmenopausal lady, I guess you don't count. Or if you don't have kids, or if you have cats, or there's a long list of people that they do not care about. And again, I think the contrast is clear: who is speaking for all of America and who is speaking for only a narrow segment.
Thanks so much for that, Laura. Any other questions from press?
If I could ask another one, if no one else has one, just to ask, if Harris and Walz win the White House, but Democrats don't control Congress, what policies can Virginia voters realistically expect to be enacted that would protect their rights to things like abortion care, access to contraception, and birth control?
So for this upcoming session, of course, we are going to be introducing the constitutional amendment in the Virginia General Assembly, the constitutional amendment that protects the access to safe and legal abortion. And that is going to be something that the voters will surely help us get across the threshold, as they have an opportunity to vote on it as well. Virginia is going to continue to move forward, as the last Southern state to protect access to safe and legal abortion. We have demonstrated in the Commonwealth that we are going to stand up for the rights of all people. And increasingly, as we see the Supreme Court making disastrous decisions, it is really incumbent upon our state assemblies to reflect what the people truly want and the protections that they deserve, whether it's voting rights or healthcare necessities, access to high-quality public education. All of these issues are more important on the state assemblies to ensure that we not only protect what we have, but that we continue to move forward in making progress. And I know the Virginia General Assembly is absolutely committed to doing that this upcoming session, and we certainly anticipate being able to do even more in 2025.
Wonderful. Thank you, Senator. Any other questions from press on the call?
At the risk of bogarting, could I just ask one more?
Of course, Michael.
Sure. What could Virginia do, if Trump wins and he directs the Department of Justice to start enforcing the Contraception Act, which would ban the mailing of anything designed or adapted or intended for producing an abortion, which could be interpreted to include medical instruments, which this could be used as a backdoor method to ban abortion without passing a new law. If Trump and Vance win, what could Virginia do to protect itself against these kind of Project 2025 policies?
I'll tackle this, and I'm sure some of my colleagues on the call will have some thoughts as well. And again, as I was saying previously, it really has fallen on our state assemblies to do that hard work, whereas in previous years and decades, we've been counting on the federal government to enact policies that protect everyone in the country. And so we've seen the horrific outline of plans in Project 2025. They are extensive, they are deep, and they're going to hurt all Americans. And so as we take a look at what the proposals are from the GOP on Project 2025, we're already working now to ensure that there are protections around these serious concerns, so that we have state laws that continue to ensure that in Virginia, at least, that we have opportunities to respond to the kind of crisis we're going to see should there be a Trump administration. And so there are things that we can do internally within the state that will protect Virginia. But of course, all of the other policies that we see 2025 move forward on, should that happen, will impact any kind of interstate agreements and interstate commerce laws. All of those are going to be factored in, and we'll have to have sharp legal minds to help us through the process in the next 4 years. It will be a complete disaster if we have the return of the Trump administration, and we have to do everything we can to prevent that from happening. That's not just on Virginians, it's on all Americans to do that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Senator. I want to thank all our speakers here. I want to wish you a very safe trip to Chicago and an exciting time while you're there. And if any reporters have any follow-up questions after this, please feel free to reach out to me. And otherwise, I wish everybody a happy Friday. Take care.